Hey, what's up guys? In this video we're going to be talking about how you actually go in and configure your NetRadar remote radar detector system. Now there's a couple different ways to actually configure this based on how many antennas you get, what accessories you get, etc. So what we're going to do is basically go over the different options depending on what kind of setup you get, and also run through all the different individual settings so that you're familiar with what they are, what they do, and which ones you should choose depending on where you drive and what your preferences are. Now, as far as the NetRadar, there's a couple different ways to actually set up the system. Every system is obviously going to have at least one antenna, right? So you got your main primary antenna that's installed somewhere in the front of your car in the grille area, and that's going to be your primary radar detector. You also have the option of getting a second antenna, which will be set up pointing out the rear of the vehicle to give you improved rear detection. When an upcoming firmware update comes out, you'll also get directional information, aka arrows, just like the V1, the Max 360, the Stinger can do that. If you get two antennas, you're going to be able to get your arrows as well to tell where the alert's coming from. For those of you guys who live in Edmonton, in Alberta, Canada, or if you live in Quebec, in those locations currently the MRCD is in use, which is a very difficult to detect radar gun. If you live in those areas, you're going to want to pick up the MRCD version of this antenna. It's basically a third version of this antenna, and that will allow you to specifically detect the MRCD. It does a very good job. It's one of the few detectors that can actually do a good job against that gun. So again, links in the video description to all this kind of stuff as far as where you can pick them up and all that. As far as accessories, there's a couple of them that I would recommend, and they're going to have an impact specifically on how you actually configure your radar detector. Now, by default, the ALP actually comes with a control pad, and it's the standard control pad. It allows you to, kill your jammers, to mute your jammers, turn your jammers on and off, basic setup functionality, right? There's also going to be the hi-fi module, which is basically the control pad plus an external speaker. The speaker will give you louder alerts. It will give you voice alerts to tell you what's going on, and most importantly, for the context of what we're talking about, it'll allow you to load different profiles. You see, no matter what setting you have or what setup you have, you're basically going to want to go and create all your settings and then load them onto your ALP, right? Now, changing the settings on the fly is not actually that easy. So what you can do is you can actually create 3 different profiles and switch between different profiles on the fly, which can adjust things like how your jammer operates, maybe turn some of the filters on and off on your radar detector. So it makes it really nice to be able to change settings while you're actually driving. Now, if you have the hi-fi module, you're going to be able to switch between 3 different profiles on the fly while you're driving. If you have the standard control pad, you're not going to be able to do that. So that's actually going to have an impact on the settings and how we set that up. So we'll cover that in just a second. Now, another accessory that you can get is going to be the Bluetooth module. The Bluetooth module basically allows you to interface your cell phone with the ALP, which gives you a number of benefits. Like you can see, we've got our whole display here, and one of the nice things is when you get an alert,
K-band,
you'll actually see it here on screen, you'll hear it, you get the voice alerts, you can see the frequency of the signal. You can also lock out the signal, which is something you can't do with the standard control pad or the hi-fi. You actually do need the phone and to run the app in order to get the lockout. So that's something really handy here with the phone. Now, for the context of what we're talking about, if you swipe over into the main settings option, there's an option here where you can actually go and configure your ALP through your phone. There's actually 2 different ways to set up and configure your ALP. The primary way, and this way works for everybody, no matter how many antennas you have or what accessories you have, is to use a USB drive. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to go onto the ALP's website. It's alpupdate.com, and I'll have a link in the video description to that as well, because that's an important website. You're going to go onto the website, you're going to configure all the different settings, and then once you get everything configured, you're going to download a file to your computer. That file you're going to want to take, put on a USB drive, and then plug this USB drive into your ALP. It takes a second or two to go ahead and copy those settings over to your ALP, and now your ALP will be configured.
data stored.
The other option, for those of you guys who opt to get the Bluetooth module, is to do pretty much the same thing actually through your phone. Works for Android and for iPhone. What you're going to want to do is go over here into the settings. You'll see there's a section here for Configure ALP Online. We're going to press Modify, and it's going to take us over here to actually the exact same website that you go to on your computer. So either way, whether you do it through your phone or you do it through your computer, the settings that we're going to go over here in just a second are identical. But either way, you can see it's just a different way of getting to that website. So you can see you've got all the different options here on your phone. You can scroll through them, and again, we'll cover all these in just a second. And then once you get everything configured the way you like, you're going to go down here and basically download all of these settings, not actually to your phone, but to the ALP server online. Then what you do is once they're actually downloaded to the ALP server, you're going to go over here and just press download on your phone, and it's going to go ahead and basically download the settings to your phone and apply it to the ALP.
Data stored.
So data stored, you can see right there. Now all the settings that we've actually created and we'd saved previously on the ALP server have now been applied to our jammers. So that's a really easy way of updating your jammers right from inside the car without having to go to the computer first. Again, the main way, and this works for everybody, is to go to the computer and do it through a USB drive. If you want to skip that process and do it in the car, you're going to want to get the Bluetooth module as well. So benefits, pros and cons. I have both Hi-Fi and Bluetooth. I find them both really helpful. Bluetooth, again, adds lockouts. You can do this kind of stuff. Hi-Fi allows you, both Hi-Fi and Bluetooth actually, allow you to do the different profiles, which, like I mentioned, allow you to basically change between different preset options on the fly. If you have the standard control pad, you're not going to be able to use the profiles. If you have Bluetooth and or Hi-Fi module, you're going to be able to use the different profiles. And so with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at all the different settings and options that are available. Again, it's going to be the same whether you're doing it through the computer or through your phone because they're both going to the same website. Alrighty, now let's go ahead and dive into the actual configuration process itself. Now to do this, you're going to want to go over here to this website, alpupdate.com. Go to this website and then over here in the section where it says configure, we're going to go over there and click enter. Now, as far as the region, select your region. I'm going to do North America, and here we go. Now, this is going to go ahead and give us all the different options available for both our laser jammer and our radar detector. I've done a separate video going over the laser jammer stuff. If you want to learn more about how to actually configure the laser jammer side, follow the link in the video description or click on the box that just popped up on the top right-hand corner of your screen. In this video, we're going to be talking about just the net radar detector. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go back up here. Now, when we get started, remember how I mentioned earlier, if you have the Hi-Fi module or the Bluetooth module, you can use profiles. If you're using those, go ahead and check this box. You'll see there's going to be 3 options here, which is going to allow us to actually load 3 separate different profiles. So we're going to use those. If you're using just a standard control pad, don't check this. But for now, for the sake of discussion and completeness, we're going to go ahead and check it, and I'll show you here how to use it once we go ahead and create one full, complete group of settings. So anyways, like I said earlier, all this kind of stuff here is the same with the laser jamming side. If you have the GPS antenna, which the net radar does come with, make sure you turn this on. And then over here, in order to use your radar detector, if you have your jammer set to parking mode only, your radar detector will also be disabled. If you have your laser jammer set to laser detection or laser jamming mode, that will open up everything down here as well, which includes the radar detection options as well. So we're going to set it to laser jamming mode right here, PDC and LID, which is the blue one, and go ahead and scroll down to the radar detector side. Now, as you can see, we've got a couple different options here for different radar detectors. We're going to want to go ahead and use the net radar one. You'll notice every single one has its own group of settings. And obviously, since we're talking about the net radar here, we're going to use the net radar one. Now, let's go ahead and run through the different settings that are available. Activate dual mode. For those of you guys who are running both the normal front antenna and the front MRCD antenna, you're going to want to have the 2 antennas mounted on opposite side of the vehicles, ideally. Ideally, you're going to want them 30 to 36 inches apart. That way the 2 antennas don't actually interfere with each other. If you have them closer than that, they may actually start to cause false alerts with one another. And so what you'll want to do is you're going to activate dual mode. This will actually reduce the sensitivity of your antennas, but if you need to deal with the false alerts that the 2 antennas are creating for each other, make sure you turn this on. This is not applicable for those of you guys who are running both front and rear normal radar antennas. This is specifically for a front regular antenna as well as a front MRCD antenna. I don't have the MRCD antenna, so I'm just going to leave it at no. Now, additionally, coming back to how many antennas you have, if you have the standard front antenna, which almost everybody will have, make sure you turn this on. If you have the MRCD antenna as well, we're going to turn on front 2. You can see this is the MRCD one. And then finally, if you also have the normal non-MRCD rear antenna, you're going to go ahead and want to turn this on as well. Now, a quick note about the different settings here. If you start changing any of these settings here, you'll notice this is actually only the settings for the front antenna. If you go over here, for example, and you get the rear antenna, you'll notice the settings over here are going to be different than the front antenna. You actually do need to adjust each antenna individually. And I say this because I noticed somebody mentioned on the forums, like, hey, they went over here and they configured everything and they like turned off X-band, for example, but they also turned on their rear antenna and they forgot to actually disable X-band on the rear antenna. So they were actually still picking up X-band alerts without realizing that. And so as you can see, you do need to adjust each antenna individually. The front and rear settings they have the same identical options that are available, so we're going to run through just the front ones. The MRCD is basically the same thing, but you have fewer options because it's only detecting the MRCD. So for the sake of this example, we're going to be talking about just the front antennas, but for those of you guys who do have the additional ones, make sure you do go in and customize those as well. Now, as far as the radar bands, pretty simple. X-band, K-band, and Ka. Turn on the ones that you need, turn off the ones that you don't. If you're not sure, you can always reference the RDFGS. That is a great resource to learn what radar bands are in use in your area. I'll put a link in that to that in the video description, or click the box up on the screen, and that'll give you more information about how to use this. Pop, you can generally leave turned off. By default, it'll come like this with the K filter turned on. The K filter is the blind spot filter. It's very effective. It's actually one of the best blind spot filters on the market, so generally you'll want to leave this one turned on. If you have traffic sensors in your area, again, reference the RDFGS for more information. If you're not sure, you're going to want to turn this on to filter out those traffic sensors. It's the equivalent of TSR or TMF right here. I don't, so I have it turned off. Now, as far as our K-band options, with the Net Radar, we have the ability to actually segment K-band. If you're not sure what you're doing with this, I would recommend leaving this on wide. Legitimate K-band can be pretty much anywhere here within the entire range of K-band. So for that reason, it's generally best to leave it on wide. If you live in an area, maybe abroad, where only certain frequency ranges are in use, you can go ahead and segment it here. Now, as far as the Ka-band segmentation, we have the same thing here. You can segment it to 5/8 if you like, and the frequency ranges are set up just like we have with the Escort. So if you're familiar with the Red Line, the Magnum, all that kind of stuff, they're using the same segments here. Something we've noticed with the Net Radar is that segmentation doesn't seem to have too big of an impact on performance. So if you want to enable additional segments to potentially catch out-of-tune guns, feel free to go right ahead. If you want to scan the entire band, you just set it to wide. For more information about Ka-band segmentation and what all that's about, link in the video description to that as well. Ka-band at full strength, basically what happens is normally when you get a signal, it's just going to pick up the signal, and as it gets stronger and stronger, the signal is going to ramp up, right? If you like, you have the option to actually, for the first 3 seconds, basically give you a full strength alert on Ka-band if you really want it to get your attention. I don't recommend it because I find the ramp up to be very, very helpful. You know, it's good to know if you're picking up a weak signal or if you just got instant owned at point blank range. You know, that's really helpful information and you'll probably want to respond differently. So I recommend leaving it turned off. However, if you want a full strength alert initially and then go back to the ramp up, you've got this option here. Now, the radar filter profiles. This is how you can switch between city modes and highway mode. Highway mode is basically full sensitivity on all bands. City mode, we've actually got 2 of them here. That will allow you to actually back down the sensitivity when you're in the city, and you can actually adjust the sensitivity of these bands here. So think of yellow as like, reduced sensitivity, and red as even more reduced sensitivity. So for fewer false alerts, right? Now, we can adjust individually how sensitive our detector is if we're using one of the city modes on X-band as well as on K-band. So the idea here is with the Net Radar, the signal strength goes from 1 to 9. What we're going to say is, you'll notice this goes all the way to 10. We're going to say the signal strength needs to get to at least 3 out of 10 in order for our detector to alert. If it's weaker than this, say 2 or 1, we'll get no alert. Now, a quick note about this. If you're using the standard control pad or the hi-fi module, you will get no alert whatsoever when the signal is below this range here. It'll be completely 100% filtering them out. It's only when the signal gets strong enough that you'll get an alert. However, if you're using the Bluetooth module, it's a little bit different. If the signal is weak, you'll get no audio alert. However, the icon on the screen showing you the city icon, the red or yellow city icon, that will actually blink when you're getting a signal that's being filtered out. So you'll get more information. You'll actually see that there's a signal that it's not alerting to. If you're using the hi-fi module or the standard control pad, you'll get no visual indication at all. And with all of these, no audio indication. So just a quick note that they do operate a little bit differently. Now, as you can see, we're going to go from 1 to 9 here. The signal strength, if we do this, for example, has to get all the way to 9 out of 9 or full strength to alert. If we set it to 10, well, the net radar can't actually go to 10 or 11. So with this one, it'll completely filter out all signals completely, which is kind of the same thing of turning off, X-band, for example, altogether. So anyways, you can adjust the sensitivity to, require a stronger signal in order to get an alert to basically filter out the weak signals. So as you can see, by default, in yellow, signal strength has to get to 3 out of 9. In red, it has to get to 5 out of 9, and you adjust both of them individually. Now, moving on to this side, radar auto mute, pretty simple. Basically, what happens is when you get an alert, the detector will alert at full volume for the first 6 seconds, and then once the detector has your attention, it'll go ahead and back down the volume of the alert to make it quieter, so it doesn't keep, nagging and bombarding you or maybe the other passengers in your car who might get a little bit annoyed with the detector going off, right? So if you want the auto mute functionality, you can turn that on. For those of you guys who are running a dash cam and you want to share your saves, it's, in that situation, often popular to leave it turned off to make it easier for people to hear the ramp up and watch the video. So again, up to you. Now, the radar speed limit, this right here, basically low speed muting. The idea is when you're traveling below a speed, you can filter out the signals altogether and you'll get no alert at all. No visual, no audio alert at all. It won't, even show you an alert when you're traveling below the speed. So you can set it to whatever speed you want. So for example, 24 miles an hour, traveling slower than that, your detector is basically turned off. You'll get no alerts. Above that, it will alert you to any signal. So something good to know. A quick note for those of you guys wondering about RDD immunity. Yes, the detector is actually detectable up to a couple feet away. It's not totally detectable, but this does not actually turn off the detector and cut power to it. The detector is actually still on, so technically it's still detectable. This is just preventing the alert from coming to you when you're inside the car. So anyways, you can see kilometers, numbers make sense, then convert it to miles per hour, they look a little bit weird, so cool. Finally, for those of you guys who are using the ALP with the radio mute wire, and you have that mute wire actually hooked into your stereo, the detector has the option and ability to actually mute your stereo when you're getting a radar alert. So if you want that functionality, you can turn it on. If not, leave it turned off. So awesome. There we go. We've run through all the different settings here on the net radar detector. Now, let's go back up here. You can see we've got next profile. If we go to that, this is going to drop us over here into profile B. So we can do profile A, profile B, and profile C. Now, by default, this is going to not copy all of your other settings. You can go over here in profile A and, configure whatever settings you want, this kind of stuff, right? But if you go into another profile, it'll go back to all the defaults. So something you can do is, let's say, we just did everything in profile A and we're like, awesome, this is what I want. You can go over here to profile B, and then rather than having to do everything from scratch, go over here and basically say copy from profile A, and it's going to copy all the settings that we made over here in profile A to profile B. So that's a great way if you want to maybe change one of the settings. So if you want to do something as far as changing, how long the jammers jam for, unlimited mode for testing, or 3 or 4 seconds for an auto JTK, or maybe you want to, on your radar detector, change some of the filtering options. Like, for example, maybe with one, you want to have, TMF turned on. Another profile, you have TMF turned off, right? You can go in here and actually create a couple different profiles as you want. And then finally, you can do the same thing for profile C. If you want, you can copy the settings over from profile A or profile B. That way you don't have to go from scratch. And then you just change whichever settings you want, and then you're done. Finally, once you get that, you're going to want to scroll down here to the bottom, and we're going to go to Save and Download. Now what it's going to go ahead and do is it went ahead and saved that config file, and then we're going to want to go ahead and download this file to our computer. To do that, we're going to go over here and click on Download. Once we do, you'll see, bam, it's going to go ahead and download that config file right to our computer. We're then going to take that config file, put it on a USB drive, take that USB drive, plug it into your ALP, and then in a second or two, it'll go ahead and update the ALP with the new settings. You've got your new settings loaded, and you are good to go. For those of you guys running the Bluetooth module, like I showed you earlier, you can do the same sort of thing directly from your phone and bypass needing the USB drive altogether, and you don't need your computer either. You can do it inside the car with your cell phone. Now, once you have everything loaded on, you're done. It's pretty simple. You can take out the USB drive and you're set. Now, to switch between the 3 different profiles, it's different depending on if you have the Hi-Fi module or the Bluetooth module. If you have the Hi-Fi module, what you're going to want to do is you're going to double press the right button on the control pad, and that'll actually go ahead and switch between the different profiles for you.
Profile B. Profile C. Profile A.
For those of you guys running the Bluetooth module, you're basically just going to press the profile button on the screen of your phone, and it'll go ahead and switch different profiles for you that way. And pretty simple, that's it. That's actually how you go in and configure your ALP with all the different settings. So cool. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. You can ask down in the comment area, or if you're watching this on the forum, feel free to ask questions down on the forum. This is also available on my website if you want to read over all of this as well. If you need to pick up an ALP or you want to check out any of the links that I've mentioned here in this video, all the information and all of the links will be down in the video description. So awesome. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.